Hello beautiful bookish people, my name is Hannah and today we're doing a recent reads. Yep, that's me. Yay. I've read a good portion of books recently that I want to talk to you about. So as we go for the regular recent reads video, I'm going to go from my most disappointing read to a 5-star read so that we can go from negative to positive.
Whoa!
Science. The first book I want to talk to you about is Dark Matter, which is an adult book that I heard a lot about for a long time. Dark Matter is about this guy who wishes he could have pursued his scientific matters to the full extent, but oops, life happens and he got married and had a kid and neglected his scientific endeavors. And one day he gets kidnapped by somebody and wakes up and his life is very different. He doesn't have a wife or kids, but he's very far along in his scientific career. So he goes, something's wrong, which we all could tell, and tries to get back to the things he neglected and didn't cherish, his family and wife. Which sounds very familiar, right? It's about a man who doesn't appreciate the things he has until it's taken away from him. Where have I heard that before? Hey, Johnny.
Hey, what's up?
What's up, Will?
Nothing much. How about you?
Looking good, Denise.
Aw, thank you so much.
And the thing is, even with Dark Matter, it acknowledges the fact that we've heard the story before, and yet it doesn't, to me, do anything original in trying to change that aspect of the story. It follows the same beats of every story that I've heard told from this perspective, which means it ends up being a very predictable story, and one I could point out almost each and every plot point, which is not something I really want from a thriller. Which brings into mind, why is this called a thriller? But it's a thriller the same way that Dumbo is a roller coaster. It kind of moves fast and it goes up and down. And you mix within that flimsy characters and a story that I've seen time and time again rehashed in a not particularly interesting way. It's not going to be a good time for me. In summary, I could sum this book up with a TikTok, which is,
You gotta live, laugh, love. Live, laugh, love. You gotta live, laugh, love.
you gotta live, laugh, love, and that's the central theme of this book. And now that I've told you that, you don't have to read it. Moving on to a slightly better book it's a better thriller by Ruth Ware called The Woman in Cabin 10. And I listened to this on audio, which I think is the way to go for Ruth Ware books because it just goes by so fast. So Woman in Cabin 10 is about this woman named Lou who has pretty severe anxiety to the point where she needs medication to keep it under control. Yes, this is important because it comes into play later. She is a journalist working for a small magazine company trying to network on this very fancy, very exclusive luxury yacht, not lot. As you can see, I've never been on one. Called the Aurora, and the Aurora only has 10 cabins. Now this is where the thriller elements start to come into play. So hold on, dramatic music please. Thank you. One night, Lou hears a giant splash in the ocean and decides to investigate like any normal human being. She sees blood on the side of the boat. She sees something floating in the water. And dun dun dun, the mystery begins. Lou in the beginning is a little bit hesitant to investigate this murder because she's like, that's not my job. And then she realizes, oh yeah, I'm a journalist. And just puts on her Jessica Fletcher hat and decides to go for it. What I like about this book is that it's a contained environment, and I love contained environment thrillers. It makes it more exciting, it makes it more thrilling. We know all the suspects, which means that we know the murderer. And whenever, as Shakira would say, they could stab you in the back. Give me that classic Agatha Christie lockdown trope, and I'm yours. What I didn't like about this book is that the protagonist is not smart. Because I don't understand any decision that she made. They had no logic. She had no emergency contact, no nothing. Another thing is that the twist was revealed a little early, but I was expecting another twist to turn it up on its head again, and that didn't really happen. which meant after the big twist, I lost quite a bit of engagement once I found out the explanation for everything. But I didn't guess it, so that's a point for Ruth Ware. Overall, I gave it 3 stars because it was fast, fun, and fresh. Ew, I hated that. So the next book I want to talk about is Kingdom of Back, which is Marie Lu's newest release. And it tells a story about Mozart's sister, Maria Anna, whose nickname was Nariel. And Nariel didn't get the equal opportunities that Mozart got because she was a woman. Whoa. I will admit, I was feeling like I was growing out of Marie Lu as an author because the last couple books that she's published just kind of felt a little juvenile to me, but this reinstated my love for Marie Lu. This is the best book she's come out with, which is saying a lot because I've read all of them. This book brings up the discussion of how much history we've missed because women didn't have equal rights. It brings up the topic of misogyny within the family. History we've missed, and one of them being Nariel Mozart, who was, like her brother, a child musical prodigy. And you mix that in with fantastical elements and a discussion of female rights, and I'm in. I went to a Marie Lu signing not too long ago, and listening to her talk about this book, it's interesting because this book is her passion project, essentially. It took her 10 years to publish this book. And I think you can see the passion behind her words in the way that she develops this 18th century fantasy historical fiction moment, moving from the Baroque period to the classical era of Mozart. Can you tell I'm taking a music appreciation class this year? And it's strung together just really well. Anna Marie's one desire is to be remembered, and I think that's such a core concept that a lot of us can relate to. That being said, I will say it leans more on the fantasy side than historical fiction. It just uses historical characters or figures to go on quests. Yeah. But I think Marie pulls it off, and that's all I have to say on this matter. Alright, so the next book that I want to talk about is City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert, which I love. Now, City of Girls tells the story of this woman named Vivian from roughly 1940s to 1970s-ish, as she is writing a letter to someone who's asking her, "How did you know my father?" So it's a frame story as she's recounting her entire life, which starts with Vivian getting kicked out of college and her parents send her to New York to live with her aunt who's in charge of a theater company. And Vivian starts sewing the showgirls' costumes, and so the showgirls kind of take her in, show her what life and youth and liberty and New York are all about. And what's great about the story is you're getting it told you from the perspective of someone who's 90, who's lived through it and has the nuance to look back on her own life, saying what I did right, what I did wrong, and how I made mistakes. Elizabeth Gilbert tackles a lot of themes in this book, from sexuality to friendship to war to sexism to privilege, through the entire time of her life. City of Girls is very dense. There are a lot of dull moments, but I don't mind that because at the end of the day we're depicting somebody's life, so not every Saturday morning is going to be the most exciting, thrilling thing in the world. Can you tell I like talking with my hands? I'm Italian. But what I've found most about literary fiction or adult fiction is that they like those dull moments. They like those somber things where not everything has to be like go, 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 go. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Because in City of Girls, there was a moment where I was like, I don't understand the point of this story. And I was about 70% of the way through it until something happens and you're like, ah, this is what we're discussing. Sexism. Womanhood. Sexuality isn't being punished? Imagine. It just takes a long time to get to that point. Overall, I think it's really slow, but worth it. And the messages at the very end, peak, prime. Pretty good. I should stop talking and move on to the last book, which is a 5-star book, All the Wind in the World, which is a book that I hear nobody talking about. Should I give you the pitch? I think I should give you the pitch, but should we bring back the dramatic music? I think we should bring back the dramatic music. Ready? And Sarah and James live in a southwest dystopian dry-as-bone hemisphere, working in fields as they try to save up enough money to eventually own their own farm. Sarah and James are in love, but in order for each other to stay safe, they call each other cousins. They're not really cousins, I promise. There's a good explanation, and if you read it, you'll get it. As they work together, make friends with the right people, and maybe, subtle chaos ensues. But I promise they're not cousins. What I really like about the story is Samantha, the author, does a fantastic job of incorporating magic into this dry desert setting. There's enough details to make it interesting without having to give me the entire backstory, making it feel distant but not far off. The desert feels like its own character, which I am a sucker for. Insert recommending Maggie Stiefvater's All the Crooked Saints. It's short, it's fast-paced, you can read it in one sitting, it's under 300 pages. And I promise, if you get bored, the ending is worth it. Because I have finally found the bittersweet that satisfies everything I've ever wanted. It speaks to actions having consequences. And sometimes you can't put a band-aid on things the next day for them to get better. This book is somber, it speaks to hope in a desolate world. If you're having trouble getting through it, I promise that ending is the most beautiful bittersweet thing I've ever seen in this book. If you like the ending of Mockingjay, I think there's some really interesting similarities between the two. I will also say, if you're looking for a young adult Holes, here you go. I feel like I gave 5 recommendations for this one book. Holes, Mockingjay, Maggie Stiefvater. Okay, that's 3, but I exaggerated, but who doesn't? But anywho, those are the books that I've been reading, loving, and hating, but I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Keep reading and all that jazz. So a woman at, what? Okay. One night, Lou hears a wow, that is coming, which is Marie talk about this book, oh my gosh, I burped, excuse me. In this book, from sexuality to friendship, there was a bunny. Dystopian, no, we're gonna do that again.